Back with another episode of the RepVue podcast. We've got Dustin Abney from Redgate. Dustin, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. Yeah, let's kick it off with just a little bit about your background. I know you played college soccer, but let's hear a little bit about you and what makes Dustin Dustin.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I did a little bit of soccer in college. I live here in Austin, Texas. Been here for about 8 years now. So probably not the first person in tech sales you've spoken to living in this area. Been in the database technology space for about 8 years, but personally, first and foremost, I'm a husband, I'm a father. That's job number one, priority number one for me always. And just a big fan of spending time outdoors with my family, hiking, camping, big music fan, anything Grateful Dead related, you got me. So yeah, it's just it's been an exciting time here in Austin the last 8 years, and yeah, looking forward to this conversation today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the other thing I noticed, which I don't think we've talked to anybody like this, and I think it's wild that you've done 15 ultra marathons. I mean, that's kind of sales in a nutshell. So how do you feel like that's impacted your life?
Oh yeah, it's I'm a believer in spending a lot of time in the deep end. It's you learn a lot about yourself when you're out on a trail for 24 to plus hours, and you see some pretty dark, you go to some pretty dark spaces, but when you come out in the end, you become you're more resilient. You find out something new about yourself every time you kind of go into that deep end, and it's always made me a better person in the end, and it's always made me a better seller and a better kind of professional, because you've reached some adversities physically, mentally, emotionally, that if you can get through that, getting hung up on by a customer is easy. It doesn't bother you nearly as much.
Yeah. Did you ever do the Barkley marathons? That was a crazy Netflix documentary.
No, there are levels to the game, and I am nowhere close to that level, man. That's some serious business, and I will gladly watch that one from my couch.
Ryan, have you seen that?
I have not.
It's
a
like
good one.
You know more about it, Dustin. Why don't you're the expert. You could talk about that.
Yeah, so it's called the race that eats the young, I believe, is kind of the motto behind it. And it's in, I believe, Tennessee. It's a mountain course, and it's 5 loops. It's called a marathon, but I believe the total mileage, it's well over, man. It's over 100 miles, I think. And it's just many years that nobody finishes. And it's just a very interesting concept. You show up, you don't know what time the race starts. The director blows a conch shell, lets you know you have to wake. You wake up and start. He lights a cigarette to start the race. It's bizarre. And
it's the one that's like it's like secret. It's hard to even understand like how to get access to it or something.
Trail.
Yeah, you have to write a letter to try to get accepted. You have to bring something. He's done socks, t-shirts, cigarettes to get acceptance into it. There's no
so much parallels with sales.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. So like how do you get into your prospect and then you gotta be resilient,
navigate
go to a lot of
your way.
places.
He's
ABM
exactly.
finest.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, the whole time you were talking, I'm like, yeah, that's like, you can't get accepted. You have to take multiple approaches, find out who the champion is, who's the DM.
Know your audience.
Yeah. And then when they let you in, it's a world of pain for a while. So you hit the finish line.
Exactly.
Yeah. For what?
Yeah. To get the win.
Pride. Yeah.
To say I did it.
Yeah.
Winning isn't finishing, of course.
To say I did it, that sums it up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Redgate. What brought you to Redgate? You've had a good run. Yeah,
so I've been at Redgate going on, it'll be I think 6 years at the beginning of the year in February or March. So yeah, it's been a good run. When I joined Redgate, I was just at a bit of a crossroads of my career of, I just left an organization and was joining a new one when this opportunity presented itself to me. And at first it was just the opportunity that really got me excited. It kind of, Redgate was going through a transformation at that time. They had decided to double down on the AMER region and launch a new office. So the role that I took at Redgate was to be an account executive and was to be part of their first hire of this new class. And it just kind of had this really cool vibe of a startup kind of mentality of it's a new office, it's a new region, it's got this huge growth potential. But at the same time, you had the backing of a 15-year-old company. And so the more I kind of got into the interview process with my the gentleman who's going to lead the office and learning more about the technology, it just seemed like a really good fit for me. But really what sold me was the history of Redgate. At the time, they were 15 years old. They're very successful. They've never taken a penny of VC funding or private equity. It's 100% a bootstrapped organization, still are today, very financially sound. And it was just such a unique, thing to hear of the way that company operates in comparison to all the other companies that I had talked to and interviewed with and worked for in the past, that it almost looked like this diamond in the rough that I said, I think with the right amount of pressure and polishing and the right people, I think this office that they're building in Austin and what they're trying to do in Amer has massive upside and big potential. And I took the bet, and 6 years later, the gamble paid off, and it's allowed me to move into, leadership positions and, work, deals and do things in business that I didn't think was possible for me at the time. So it was just a really interesting organization and where they were in their journey. And we're at a pretty pivotal part of our journey now, moving into 2023. That's got me just as excited as it was 6 years ago.
Awesome.
I see you went so where you are now managing the East Enterprise team. You had a stint in there for a year after you were a highly successful seller, and you kind of spun up the BDR team there. It looks like. Talk a little bit about kind of were you thinking that could be a path for you, kind of running BDR teams? Did you always want to get back to the kind of the enterprise side, or was it just a big need and you were tapped? Talk a little bit about that process. That's interesting.
Yeah. It was a little bit of both there, what you said, in terms of I always wanted to get back into the enterprise space. I in no way had a long-term goal of staying in business development and leading business development teams. At that time, Redgate was transitioning to a new model of named account selling and building out a new team that was going to be focused on our most strategic accounts. Part of that was the creation of a BDR team. And I had been talking with my director about my upward mobility and getting into management of a selling team in the future. And it kind of worked out to where I have a goal of getting into management. I didn't have the management experience. Redgate identified there's a gap in the business of somebody who knows our business, and they felt could step in and build this BDR team from the ground up. So it's kind of one of those two paths just happened to cross at the right time where it met my long-term goals of wanting to explore management as an opportunity, and it was going to fill the gap for the business. So I took the role with the intention of starting the BDR program, leading it for a year or two, but was very transparent with my leadership that it was intended to be kind of a stepping stone to get me into a position to get back managing full cycles reps, because my passion is more in the full sales cycle and working, with more complex sales cycles, helping work sellers kind of navigate deals, closing deals. And it's just what I'm more passionate about. And that's how the plan was drafted. And lucky for me, we're able to stick to it.
Awesome.
What was your internal engine that was telling you that you wanted to go into management?
Yeah, for me, it was something that I wanted to explore more than anything. I wasn't 1,000% sold that that's where my career would be of management and leadership only. But I'm a firm believer in you don't know necessarily until you try. And for me, I know that as I was an individual contributor as an AE, I was still leading these pods and I was helping people while they were ramping, and I was coaching them deals. And I just found that one of my key passions is coaching. I really enjoy and thrive when I feel like I'm helping other people succeed. It's something that really motivates me. And I know part of frontline sales management, it's coaching, it's being there to support your reps, it's helping them kind of find their way forward and helping kind of keep the guardrails in place without being over directive and doing the job for them. And I got a little bit of taste of that as an IC, as I was managing the pod and kind of leading new sellers on their journey. And that's kind of when I started to really get that itch for coaching. And that's what still drives me today as a manager is, it's coaching. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I love to do. And it's kind of what I always try to make the number one priority in my management role.
Where did that come from? The desire to want to coach?
It may go back into when I was younger, and I've kind of always coached. I coached little league teams when I was in high school with my dad. We didn't have a kid on the team, but we coached little league teams. I've coached people in soccer, private lessons in the past. I've always had this passion, and I like watching other people win. I think I like watching people win just as much, if not more, than when I win myself. I just get a great amount of satisfaction in knowing that, at the end of the day, I don't need my name in the spotlight. It was cool, right? Closing biggest deals in company's histories, breaking records. Yeah, it's awesome. But when I can see somebody, have a year that is just blows it out and they're able to go, meet life goal X because of what they did in business. I just like to be able to know that, nobody knows it, but you played a part in that. And it just keeps me motivated to do it.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is, people do know it though. I think that's where, like you are like, this is what I always used to tell managers, first line managers, is like, that is you winning, right? Like that is a reflection of you as the coach when you have a team of people, right? As a former sales leader myself, I had a similar thought. I enjoyed winning, and then you enjoy seeing other people that enjoy their team winning, knowing that they're winning, right? You are winning. And then me as a senior leader, that's my winning, right? And it all flows up from there. So I think that's a great way to approach it. Not everybody feels like that. And that doesn't mean it's bad either. It just, there's nothing wrong with wanting to just continue to win yourself and win deals and be really successful. That's a great path too. But it's great that you're able to identify that about yourself and then act on it and take that initiative.
Yeah. What I was trying to dig out was, were you going to mention money? Because I think a lot of people know that management isn't always the path to more money. Like, what's the biggest deal? You hit some accelerators, like the likelihood team blowing it out is less likely than you as a rep, especially that's why you got the management. Like, so I was trying to dig that out. So it sounds like there's like this intrinsic thing there. It's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Ryan, you're up.
Well, I was just going to touch on that. The money thing. It's like when you get to a certain level of leadership, I mean, the compensation is good, but like you just can't blow out it's really hard to blow out your number, right? Like, that individual enterprise rep, when you close the largest deal in company history, right? There's a meaningful commission check that you get from that, and you don't get that as a manager. You'll do well. So you're kind of like, maybe the next hope is like to have some exit strategy down the road, my company or whatever. So, so I guess we can pivot to you're talking about, you love seeing people win. There's certainly a coaching element to it. There's also a raw material element to it, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, great coaches can succeed and fail based on the ability or inability to identify talent, right? And build your team. Right. Your team is gonna look different in 2 years than it does right now. There's gonna be people that peel off for many and various reasons, and you're gonna bring on new people to backfill, or if you grow the team. Let's maybe pivot a little bit into kind of one of the core RepVue podcast topics, which is, maybe let's go down the path of, what are you looking for? Like, we'd love to hear about the interview process kind of mechanically too, but also maybe we can start with like, how do you think about talent, and what traits are you looking for, and how do you suss that out, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's, when it comes to selling, I think it's, the way I kind of think about it is like a matrix almost. There's the skills that you have to have, or there's the skills that can be coached. And then there's the wills, right? And so what I look for out of people is you don't necessarily have to have all the skills to step into a role. But there are a lot of requirements around the wills that I would look for over the skills, because there's some things that you can't coach. At the end of the day, I can coach someone how to strategically look at an account, research, build account plans, shape prospecting strategies, all of those things. The will to be patient, and the will to understand the process of strategic selling, and the will to show up day in and day out and face adversity and be able to prevail in that. Those are things that are really hard to coach. So kind of one of the things that we prescribe to at Redgate, and it's kind of a theme across a lot of the managers I work with, is, there's a book called The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni. And if you're not familiar with that, he kind of breaks down what the ideal team player should look like. And it's three things: you're humble, you're hungry, and you're smart. Now, you can kind of put your own definition to all three of those things, and you can go by his definition, but I kind of have my own definition of those three things. And, when I say hungry, I'm not talking about, okay, this is the grind, this is the hustle culture, and you're going to do 100 dials a day, and you're going to show me you're hungry. Like, no, what I'm looking for is somebody who is hungry in terms of being a self-starter, somebody who shows me that they're motivated to succeed, that they're going to take their development and they're going to take ownership. They're going to hold themselves to a high standard. For me, that's hungry. When I think about somebody that's humble, this is somebody who isn't going to put themselves above the team. I'm looking for people who can tell me a story about how they contribute to the team. A question I like to ask sellers is, put aside the revenue and pipeline that you're going to be responsible for. What does good contribution to the business look like to you? If you were to tell me you are successfully contributing to my team, set aside revenue and pipeline, what does that look like to you? Because I seek to understand, like, where does somebody feel like they can add value to our business outside of that? How much of a team player are they going to be? And how humble are they in some of these responses can be interesting. And then smart, we kind of say at Redgate, we don't hire dumb people. That's one thing I love about Redgate. Every person I feel like I've worked with is way smarter than me. And that's a blessing, and probably says something about me. But it's something where, I want people that, not book smart, right? But people who just kind of have that inclination of being able to figure things out. There's not necessarily just smart in sales, but people who you can tell that they're intelligent people. They have problem solving skills, and they just have that level of smartness that they're going to be able to step in and figure things out, as long as they have the right support system around them. So I think that's kind of what I look for out of somebody to join my team. And I think that would align pretty well across the different teams at Redgate.
Yeah. So let me dig on one or 2 points. Yeah. What does good contribution look like, setting aside revenue and pipeline? I mean, what's an example of a good, what have you heard that stood out to you? And if you're asking candidates this, right, I guess, it's pseudo hypothetical, but also they can put themselves in their most recent roles. But what's something that sounds good to you? What does that sound like?
Yeah, I mean, I've had like some of the best answer when candidates, tell a story about how they identified a gap in the business on the commercial side, and that they took ownership to say, hey, I've identified that this gap, and they come with a fresh idea. Because one thing that I look for in my candidates coming, external and not just internal promotions, is I want somebody to bring fresh ideas. I want somebody to look at what we're doing and challenge that. I don't expect somebody just to come in and say, I'm here business as usual. Let's go. I want somebody to come in that says, hey, my contribution is, I expected my first 6 months to actually influence the way that we sell at Redgate, because I have experience selling in this manner that you don't have experience. Dustin, you've been at Redgate 6 years. I've been at this company for 3 years and this company for 3 years. I hope somebody comes in and challenges me and saying, hey, man, you got the blinders on. You've been in Redgate bubble for too long. This is how the outside world is doing things. Have y'all thought about this? I want people who aren't the lone wolves, people who tell stories about how they've helped other people on their team, or how they've built tighter alignment with marketing, and how they've done different, areas of partnering with solution engineering. I really like the stories of people who are confident and comfortable challenging individuals, because I think at the end of the day, that's what builds a healthy team and a healthy culture, is having a group that is confident and comfortable in challenging each other's ideas and decisions. And then ultimately, even if it's a kind of a scenario where you disagree and commit, you've still had the conversation. And I think that just breeds a really healthy environment for a sales team.
You mentioned the hunger side of it. How do you suss out hunger without getting into like, I want to make $100 a day or that? Like, what are some questions you ask to dig that out?
Goal setting. I think if you want to understand if somebody's hungry, ask them, tell me about your goals for the next 3 to 5 years. Because the people who have the most hunger are the ones who take time to architect their life. Work is a massive piece of everybody's life. There's no such thing as work-life balance, right? It's work-life integration. I spend more time talking to people on my team than I do my son and wife, right? Like, I'm here, I get 2 hours at the end of the day with my son before it's time to do the bedtime routine. I'm at work 8 hours a day. There's no such thing as work-life balance. And I really believe, like, people who have that drive to succeed at work, it's typically because they have a bigger plan and a bigger design of what they want to accomplish in their lives. And just kind of talking to people and challenging them on their goals and what do they want to accomplish, professionally, personally, you can start to see if there's a fire in that person, or if they're just here to, I'm just here to, it's work, it's cool, whatever, I'll do what you need me to do. I think having a discussion around their goals and kind of what matters most to them in life outside of work can really peel back the layers on that.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at like your background, running 15 ultra marathons tells me a lot about your goal setting and just what you want out of life. And it's like, if that didn't carry over to work, it'd be a little weird, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Super lazy at work. I just like to run.
Lazy at work, out running. Yeah.
You make up for it. Yeah, you make
there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was just say, I think that's great. When I first thought about hungry, I was thinking I like the forward-looking approach. A lot of times I've taken, and I've seen this in other interviews too, like more of a backward-looking approach. Whereas, like, early in the conversation, you mentioned, playing a sport in college, for example, right? Which shows like a commitment to both things, like, and a commitment to overcome some hard. And it doesn't have to be playing a sport in college. It can be, I had to pay for my own college and I didn't want debt or something. And so I waited tables, 30 hours a week, or, what has your drive to getting into stories of what has your drive resulted in your history, where you can tell a story about how you did something that's not easy to get to where you want to go, and then relate that to the future as well. Very similar, but I like the forward-looking approach that you described.
Yeah, and the reason I like to take that approach more is because I feel like what I want to ensure is that fire's not burnt out. It's like you can learn a lot about somebody's past, 100%, but I think you can learn a lot about where do they think, where they plan on going, like what do they envision that to look like. Because burnout's real, fires die, they get put out. And I want to make sure somebody's stepping into the team that has that spark, and that fire's still burning, and they got some motivation, and they're not looking to just say, I'm ready to come to my next role and be complacent and, just slide by and everything will be fine.
Yeah. let's get into like the brass tacks of the interview process. Like, what does that look like? I apply, then what?
Yep. Yeah, so we have our we try to make it as painless as possible. It's not going to take 10 steps, it's not going to take 15 hours. We really break it down into 3 steps. With the first step being a very brief phone screen. Say you apply, or maybe I have a really awesome team internally at Redgate of talent acquisition partners. So we have our team internally who goes out, helps source contacts. I'm constantly kind of recruiting, building my bench through my network and LinkedIn engagements and things like that. But it ultimately starts with a very quick conversation, which is let's just talk about the role. Let's talk about what you as a candidate are looking for, and 20 minutes max. Let's just see, is this something that we both agree makes sense to move forward with? If that aligns, then we'll move into the formal interview process, which is just 2 steps. The first step is an interview that encompasses a presentation aspect. So all of our sellers are provided with a prompt, and basically it's 3 hypothetical account scenarios. And we say, these are your account scenarios. Present your plan. What is your strategic vision? How would you handle this certain scenario? You don't have to know our solutions. We're not looking for you to talk about our technology or anything like that. Just keep it sales specific. What's your thought? Like this, we laid it out. You can pick one of the 3, and they're going to present it to me, and typically either another sales management peer or my director. And we get in through the presentation, and I'm a big believer in honesty and transparency. And so I do that at the beginning of the interviews. And if it completely misses the mark, I politely will, end the interview there and give them the feedback if they're open to it, because I don't want to waste 30 more minutes of your time or my other management peer time to get into some of the more Q&A aspect of an interview. If we feel like you missed the mark, we'll let you know there, and we'll give you time back in your day, and hopefully they respect that. But if the presentation goes well, then we move into the back half of that first interview where, we get into more of the general discussion, what's your drivers, your motivators, your goals. Let's talk about your experience, some of the more standard things. And then I always leave a lot of time on the back end for them to ask me questions, because I think it's super important that an interview is looked at as a 2-way street. I don't want to be interviewing you to join my team. I also want you to be interviewing me to understand if it makes sense for you to join Redgate and for you to want to work with me as your hiring manager. Because I think sometimes interviews can too much. It's me interviewing you. I have a job opening. You're going to be lucky if you can get this job. I want it to be transparent. And yes, I have a job opening, and I would love to have you join my team, but only if you think it makes sense for you as a candidate and that it aligns with your goals and what you think is best for your life and your family as well. So I leave a lot of time on the back half of that first interview for that conversation as well. If a candidate moves forward past that, then we have a second interview that is typically ran with a manager from maybe solution engineering or marketing. We try to make it more cross-functional, and we call this our culture fit. So the first interview is, can you do the job? Does it make sense for you to do the job? The second one more is, do we believe you can do the job at Redgate and align with our values and how we operate as a company? Basically, it's the way we think about it is like, are people going to want to work with you? And one of our core values at Redgate is documented on our website is just don't be an asshole. It's one of our core values. So the whole second interview it's kind of like the asshole test. Do we feel like this person? Because at the end of the day, I don't care what your numbers look like. If I get the sense that you are just going to be tough to work with and an asshole to the rest of my team, take your revenue elsewhere. I don't have time for it. So if they get through the culture, then it's an offer. That's it. We do those 2 interviews. We're not looking to waste people's time. We're looking to make sure we get the right talent that works for us and that we're a good fit for our candidates. But yeah, we try to keep it painless.
The assessment's interesting. It sounds like here's another sports analogy. It's like, oh, you hear like, oh, this person's a soccer mind or they're a football mind. It's almost like you're looking for the sales mind.
Absolutely.
Regardless of like like getting super brass tacks, it's like, how do you just think about an account or a deal or whatever?
Yeah. And we're looking for the strategic mindset. We want somebody who's not just saying, yeah, well, I guess I'll pick up the phone and I'll call the end user 200 times and see what else I can help them with. Like, it's not the type of selling we do here. I'm looking, we've researched, I found this company initiative. I saw their CTO say, this is their digital transformation. So I can go this route and I can do this and I can pull in this resource. We're looking for that strategic mindset of somebody who understands what it takes to sell at a more senior level.
Yeah.
So first of all, I love the fact that it's really kind of intro and then 2 core steps and then an offer. So that's amazing. I think a lot of times companies have 7 or 8 steps, and what it really means is they ask the same set of questions 4 different ways, and then they have 4 different people ask the same set of questions 2 different ways. But on that, so on that front, on the second step, the kind of the culture interview, you mentioned there'll maybe other folks involved, like a sales engineer, people they'll work with, right? Is there a standard? Do you all have kind of a menu of questions that they'll ask in that, or is it more informal, get to know you sort of thing, or how does that work?
It's a little more informal. So for instance, before we went fully remote with lockdown, we used to have this little coffee shop and cafe called our Churros, right around the corner from our office in downtown. And I used to run a lot of these second interviews when it comes to like marketing. And a lot of times I would take them to the coffee shop for the second interview. And we would just sit down with a cup of coffee and, maybe even breakfast tacos for an hour. And, sitting down face to face and over coffee and tacos, you're going to know if those questions are pre-scripted and forced. For me, it's always about, if there's some potential, say, a red flag in the first interview where I may say, as a hiring manager, I really like this candidate. I think she's going to be really well skills wise, but I don't know. I'm getting a sense that maybe it's one thing. I would tell the person in the second one, say, hey, can you just dig into that for me? However you feel, right. You don't have to pull some canned questions out, but you just kind of check me on that one. Maybe I just misread something, or, so we do have these kind of pre-scripted questions that are guiding policies from our people team. But I can tell you, when we step into interviews, I don't have a list of questions in front of me. I want to have a casual conversation. I don't want it to come off as a Q&A. Like, you're not going to get to know somebody very well in a Q&A, at least not as well as you could from a casual chat of, let's just talk, let's get to know each other, and let's see if at the end of it, it makes sense for us to move forward.
Right.
Very Sandler of you. It's very Sandler.
I'm ready to come work for Redgate.
Yeah. Well, breakfast tacos.
Well, I'm hiring, Ryan. I'm hiring.
Yeah.
If this gig doesn't work out, I'm gonna call you.
I don't know. I think you may be doing all right.
It's also a really good Indian place over by Arturo's Clay Pit. That's delicious.
Oh, Clay Pit. We used to go there all the time. It was a great, we were right there on the corner of 15th and Guadalupe. That was where our office used to be.
Do you use that coffee and breakfast taco meeting as like a way to suss out if somebody's an asshole, like the way they treat, or did you as like a way to how they treat this, whoever's serving them, or
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah, and somebody who worked service industry when they were younger, I have very little patience of people who disrespect servers. I think you go have dinner with somebody, it says a lot about them, the way they'll treat their wait staff.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. It's good character testing. Who's somebody that, or not who, but what's an example of somebody that you thought was great that didn't end up getting the job?
Yeah, I think so. Now that we talk about like our interview process, there have been times where, somebody they killed that first interview. They present so well, like, oh, they know strategic selling, they know this, but just in the way they carry themselves, and sometimes the level of arrogance that can come with elite sellers is just, hey, you could check every box in terms of skills and do you know how to do this job? I could give you a full ramp quote of day one and you'd probably come in and figure it out and get the job done. But man, if I get the sense that you are not going to vibe with this team and the way we operate at Redgate. Like I said before, I'll pass, hard pass. It's not there. And it sucks, right? It sucks because you could see like that person would be a killer rep, but I just don't think they'd be a killer rep at Redgate. I think it would cause more friction than it's worth. So there's always those, right? And because you can be the best at your job, but at the end of the day, if you're an asshole, like I don't want it. It's going to be more of a headache for me in the long run than hitting my number. I've seen it. I've had bad hires that snuck through in the past. The opportunity cost of that it's way bigger than the revenue.
Yeah. Brian, you look like you were going to say something.
No, just agree. Just agreeing. Send them to Oracle. Be done with it.
You said it, not me.
Oracle is one of our top clients. Just kidding. Yeah. Well, have you ever been overridden there? Have you ever had somebody above you go like, yeah, like we want this person because we know they're going to close revenue and we'll deal with it. Like, have you ever had one of those?
No.
That's good.
No, it's more the opposite where I'm like, do you think we should take a risk on this person? They're like, nah, it's not worth it. We know what happens.
Yeah.
6 months, they're gone. We just lost 6 months of ramping someone else who could be here long term. The opportunity cost of attrition it's insane when you break down the numbers. It's just not worth it.
We have a calculator that we built out that has that built into it, and it goes as far as the lifetime value of customers. Like if you've got a customer for 5 years and you factor in attrition, it gets crazy.
Yep.
It's wild.
Yep.
In the essence of time, without Arturo's, how do you keep the team connected?
Yeah, this is a little bit of an interesting one for me specifically because my team is like we go by flexible hybrid is what we're calling it, right? Where we don't have a permanent office space in Austin anymore. We're in the process of securing a new Austin permanent office, which will be our new AMER headquarters for Redgate. But my team has reps in California, Colorado, Texas, London. So keeping the team connected, this isn't something where I can just say, hey, does everybody want to get together for lunch on Friday? That's not possible. The whole virtual lunch, happy hour, coffee things, that got burnt out so fast in 2020. Nobody cares. Nobody cares to do that anymore. So it's, honestly, full transparency, it's something I'm still trying to figure out 2 years later. I don't think it's something that anybody's mastered necessarily. But we're doing our best. In ways that we do that is at least once a quarter, I'm flying everybody together. And we are doing something together. Typically it could be around QBR. So we have a day or two of your enterprise function QBR. But, one fun thing that I started doing with my team is I would say, okay, like this is our team quota. I'm going to put a 20% increase on that because, hitting 100% as a team is cool. 120% is a lot cooler. So if we do 120% of quota, we'll fly everybody together. And I personally, out of my pocket, will take us to a steak dinner somewhere extremely nice. We just did Maestro's in Beverly Hills a few weeks ago as a team. And, that is a team of, 8-9 people. My wife isn't always thrilled with the dinner bill that I personally float at the end of the day.
Like a $3,000 dinner.
It's if I'm lucky. But it's something that I think, the team appreciates. And, there's few things that can bond people like a meal. You know what I mean? You sit around a dinner table for 4 hours. It's your team cohesivity is going to shoot through the roof after that dinner. So, I do things like that. I try to bring the team together on QBR and, hey, let's block out a few hours to talk about, team strategy. Let's run a SWOT analysis on our team of what happened in the last quarter. I try to get people to engage, try to not just make them feel like it's just a number, but their input matters into the way I guide this team and stretch this team. So, we try to do different things like that to build that healthy culture. And get them to feel connected. And obviously there's we use Slack and we do this and that, that's just business as usual for most companies these days.
Yeah, agreed. It is tough. Where do you, like you said, it's still tough to do it. Beyond that, beyond the dinner and all that, I mean, out of your own pocket's obviously huge. I think if people, like, I'm assuming the team knows that you're talking about it publicly. Like it sounds like
I'd let them know. They're like, you're expensing this. I was like, fuck, I wish.
Yeah. What are some other things you guys have done beyond that? Has there been, like, I've seen like magicians come in over Zoom. I've seen like sangria making, anything like that, or no? Like the Zoom stuff, it's tired. Agreed.
Yeah, we did that in the past where we would do different, and this would be larger, like our entire, AMER team. So all the sales team, marketing, engineering, we would do like monthly trivia, where grab your favorite cocktail, we'll do online trivia together, and the team that wins gets, $500 to pick a charity, and we'll donate to a charity. We've done things like that. Different groups have done various things of, online cocktail making or online cooking classes as a group, things like that. And so we've explored those sorts of things. We've done those in the past. But over the last 6 months to a year, we've just gotten back to, hey, let's just get in person and let's do some work stuff. But then afterwards, let's go throw axes. Let's go taking one team. Let's go do this really cool putt-putt course, the Peter Pan putt-putt in Austin. We'll go there and bring a 6-pack if you want. It's BYOB, whatever. And we just kind of hang out and just try to find different ways to connect and keep it more casual. Because the thing that I feel like that happened was by 2021, it just all felt so forced that, like, you feel like you needed to be there, but nobody wanted to be on Zoom again. And so we've luckily kind of gone back to just how do we make it fun to be in person again?
Yeah.
Make sales fun again.
Yep.
Awesome.
Last question. We ask this to everybody that comes on. Have you or would you show CRM quote attainment dashboard to a candidate?
100%. If I have a candidate that doesn't ask me about that, I question if they're the right person for my team. I expect somebody to say, show me the performance of your team. I also expect them to ask, and they don't always do. And we've had some good ones who didn't ask this. But can I talk to you? Let me talk to your top performing rep and let me test you, because I want to make sure you're not bullshitting me, right? You're the hiring manager. You could be bullshitting me. Let me talk to your best rep. Let me talk to one of your underperforming reps. I want to talk to somebody who's struggling, and I want to know how you support them. I want to talk to your top rep and want to understand how you support them. I fully expect that. And I think as a manager, you got to be willing to open up and show them that, like, because if not, they're going to get there and be like, this team is not as good as this guy told me in the interview process. I think transparency's got to go both ways on those things.
Yeah. It's part of why we exist. Actually, that's 100%.
That's exactly why y'all exist.
Yeah. Have you had a candidate bring up RepVue in an interview?
I have not had a candidate bring up RepVue in an interview. I have had some potential candidates reach out to a peer of mine on the management team who said, hey, they both went to Baylor. So he messaged him and said, hey, see, you're a Baylor alumni too. I saw the Redgate RepVue rating. I'm going to be going into the market pretty soon. I'd love to talk to you guys. So we have had RepVue come into play recently in terms of helping us as an organization. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, was wondering if that had sparked like the CRM conversation, because I mean, I almost wondered, like, because we hear it's like, hey, I saw your scores are on RepVue or X. How does that translate to real life? And then you do a deeper conversation. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Dustin. Appreciate coming on.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you both. I appreciate having me on. And again, we're big fans of RepVue over here. I love the platform ever since y'all launched it, even before we partnered with you guys. And I just think it's such a valuable resource to the sales community. So yeah, just thanks for the work y'all are putting in.
Thanks so much.
Likewise.
All right.
We appreciate you all.
Cool.